A recurring question in the comments under our Sovol M1D videos is about TPU printing. I printed this cool DJI Pocket 3 camera case on the M1D using 4 materials: white and glow-in-the-dark green PETG, PLA for supports, and TPU on the inside. This is a true Toolchanger muscle flex, but there are things you absolutely need to know about how this works. This is gerGO, and welcome to gerGO Print 3D, the YouTube channel where my young nephew Levi and I enjoy having adventures with our 3D printers, lasers, and all the other DIY gadgets. Our projects often involve stress testing and even breaking our machines, making mistakes so you don't have to. This is the 12th video in our M1D series, and we have added curated, translation-ready subtitles, chapter markers, and multiple audio tracks to this one as well. Sovol recommends printing TPU no softer than 95A in the right tool head, since that side relies on the Auto Filament System, pushing the filament through those very long PTFE tubes in the back. First, I tried this very soft, red, semi-transparent TPU from G-Tech. The hardness isn't officially specified, but it's probably way under 90 on the Shore scale. Following Sovol's instructions though, I loaded it into the AFS and printed this simple test circle first. And then the little Bulbasaur we usually print as our benchmark for TPU. It turned out great. I was so excited. So I loaded 3 other colors of TPU, the Silk TPU from Sunlu, Polyflex from Polymaker, and a green spool of that same soft G-Tech material, and started a very ambitious print using all 4. Naively, I decided to print that hat for our camel mascot entirely out of flexible materials. Well, it did not go well. It started okay. You can see the first layers of the red printing perfectly fine, but problems started immediately after the very first tool change. I got a filament clog error on channel 4. Checking the tools, can you spot the problem? Yeah, retraction during a tool change is a massive no-no for these soft flexibles. See, when the tool is parked and removed from the extruder, there is a small exposed filament section. The soft TPU just buckles, squeezes, and bulges out through that opening. Once this happens, game over. It prevents proper loading afterward and completely stops extruding. So what could be a fix? Currently, out of the box, we can load TPU into one of the tools on the right and run a single color TPU print. Or do a mixed material print using PETG in the left head and TPU on the right. This acts as a purely IDEX solution, 2 tool heads alternating without any physical tool changes on the right carriage. In the future, there could be a purely software fix to this though. It might be possible to rewrite those Toolchanger routines so they do not retract for TPU, or the AFS could be programmed to work more smartly with the park macro, actively pulling the filament back while the tool head is retracting. This would finally open up printing using all 6 tools on the right with 1 or more loaded with TPU. I hope Sovol does this before public release. The fixed tool head on the left, however, shouldn't have any of these buckling issues since there is no tool change and no exposed filament gap over there. But there is also no feeder motor on that side, and the stock filament path is too long. That PTFE tube adds way too much friction for soft TPU. There are ways around that though. If we manage to fix the feeding to the left head, massive new opportunities would open up. We could print a 6-material multicolor PETG object with PLA supports using the right tool changer and add a single TPU color from the left for things like custom grips or inlays. Or we could print two color TPU models alternating between the two loaded tool heads. Again, a purely IDEX workaround. So how exactly did I print that 4-material print I showed you in the intro? I went with the TPU in the left head and the other materials in the right Toolchanger. I'm planning to install a BQ Panda feeder on that left side eventually to handle the drag, but I haven't gotten to that yet. The other option is a more direct filament feeding approach from the top of the machine. You might remember our TPU upgrade for the tiny Sovol Zero, which enabled that little machine to print TPU at an amazing 11 cubic millimeters per second. I've linked to that video in the corner if you haven't seen it. Before committing to that permanent mount for the M1D, I wanted to test the physics. I came up with this absolute Frankenstein contraption using light stands, a crossbar that normally holds our green screen backdrop, and a pair of clamps. I even greased the inside of the spool. We recently switched to using this DJI Pocket 3 for some of our B-roll footage, but the camera is very fragile. I'm scared to take it anywhere outside the studio. I found an awesome case for it on MakerWord. The original model requires the TPU inlays to be printed separately and glued in. But having a Toolchanger, why not print the whole thing as one solid integrated piece? I also had to make a few specific changes to the model. We use these extremely long Ulanzi selfie sticks that convert into lightweight camera stands. So we have the quick mount Ulanzi stubs attached to all of our cameras, including the Pocket 3. I also designed this minimal little stand that attaches to that Ulanzi stub, allowing the Pocket 3 to stand upright on its own. So I made 3 modifications to the case. First, I extended the bottom to make room for the Ulanzi attachment. Second, I designed a slide-in storage slot on the top of the case for that custom self-stand. See, I can slide in the camera, twist to remove the upper portion, and the soft rubbery TPU insert combined with the hard PETG shell provides perfect protection for this lightsaber looking camera. Third, while I was at it, why not add some cool glow-in-the-dark branding on the outside of the case using the exact same sunloop edge I used for the accent color latches. Now all 4 parts would technically fit on the build plate of the M1D at once. But cautiously, I printed them separately. Starting with the largest bottom piece, I loaded the TPU from the top, temporarily sidelining the original PTFE tube and using just a short piece of tubing to guide the filament straight down from the spool suspended above the printer. The 2 PETG colors were routed normally through the AFS. Printing the 2-color bottom layer is no challenge at all. Just look at how I minimized the size of the prime tower for this print to save time and material. Then, as the print reaches the TPU insert, the printer seamlessly starts to alternate between the 2 IDEX heads. TPU and PETG stick incredibly well to each other. From a distance, it just looks like a standard color change, though obviously the TPU prints much slower. For the time being, I only raised the TPU max volumetric speed to 3.5 from the default 3 and bumped the PETG from a surprisingly low 5 in the stock slicer presets up to a still conservative 10. We might be able to go higher with both, but I wanted this to succeed. This is a pretty large print that takes over 8 hours to complete. We switch between the 2 IDEX heads about 150 times, but because of the minimal prime power, these swaps only take 7 to 8 seconds each, including wiping, totaling less than 20 minutes of downtime for the entire print. The vast bulk of the print time is just laying down the TPU at around 60 millimeters per second and PETG at 200. Printing the lid, however, brings a third non-sticking material into the mix. That slide-in slot requires a large unsupported ceiling facing the build plate, which requires a support best printed out of PLA, which doesn't stick to PETG. Generally, it is recommended to print only the dense support interface out of the dissimilar support material, but I actually found that using PLA for the entire support structure works best here. It still took a few attempts to get everything exactly right. I had to make sure the first layer of PETG over the support had existing material to connect to, otherwise it just curled up. I was able to control the orientation of the lines of this layer via the solid infill direction and align infill direction to model options in the process settings. I also found that the yellow PLA I used earlier actually tainted the bright white PETG slightly, leaving a faint residue. So in my final successful attempt, I switched to using stark white PLA with the white PETG. Just look at how effortlessly it pops off the part. The PETG surface left behind is almost as clean and smooth as if it was printed directly on a PEI sheet. There are only a few days left in this Kickstarter campaign, and I know many of you are still debating whether you should jump in on this first round or wait until 2027 when non-backers will likely start receiving retail units. Yes, there are always risks involved with crowdfunding, but in this case, they aren't the usual Kickstarter risks. Sovol is a well-established company. They have successfully delivered on a dozen or more 3D printer models over the past decade. And this isn't even their first model introduced via Kickstarter. The questions I see in the comments are mostly about the feature set and the specific design decisions of the company. Let's tackle the most prominent ones. Why did they go with the IDEX setup instead of the plain old single head Toolchanger almost every other company is making right now? I think just this camera case project alone shows you the real-life advantages of a dual head system for switching between materials in less than 8 seconds, including wiping. And we've presented a bunch of other examples in our previous videos about the M1D. How good is their software? And will it offer well-tuned slicer profiles out of the box? I can already see a much better selection of materials in the custom Orca slicer they are developing for the printer than their earlier models had. That software is now based on the absolute newest version of Orca, which means it should be easy to keep it up to date in the long run. The same goes for the clipper they are using. But even if Sovol falls short, we will do it, because we actually can. The biggest advantage of Sovol being their amazing stance on open source. Nothing stops us from poking around in the macros or even in Clipper source code. What will the advanced variant include, and how is it going to be delivered? With our SVO8 Max, the enclosure shipped completely separately, much later than the main units, and the heater had to be purchased as an add-on. Here, the enclosure was developed in tandem with the rest of the system from day one, and we can already see the final enclosure installed and running in Sovol's own live streams. What materials will it actually enable us to print? Besides the basics, PLA, PETG, TPU, as I've just shown you, I think ABS and ASA, along with their carbon fiber and glass fiber variants, will surely work great. Whether we can plan beyond these depends on how high we can safely force the nozzle and bed temperatures, which are currently software capped at 100 and 300 degrees respectively. I would not back the M1D if my primary goal was to print pure nylons. But for almost any other consumer or engineering material, it opens up unforeseen possibilities. Finally, should you wait for a larger print volume variant? Going much bigger means you will run into extreme shipping prices and device footprints competing with massive machines like our SVO8 Max. Honestly, if you truly need a bigger Toolchanger, why not get an SV08 Max and add 3D Print Demon's Bondtech Index mods. At 300 by 300 by 350 millimeters, the M1D is already a helmet class printer when using either of the tool heads natively, not to mention the exciting batch productivity features that are completely unique to the IDEX mechanism. If these capabilities fit your use case and you don't want to wait until next year to get your hands on an M1D, I think you're pretty safe to back the project. You will be supporting a very dedicated and well-established team who's all for open access and pour their hearts into everything they do, including this newest wonder. If you do decide to back it, please use the link gp3d.click/m1d shown right here on the back of my custom Magic keyboard. This supports the channel directly and sends a strong signal to Sovol that it was a good decision for them to provide us with this early prototype unit so we can show it to you. I started to use these custom channel links so I can easily redirect them to the official retail website after the Kickstarter campaign ends. To learn more about the M1D, make sure to check out our previous episodes. For instance, if you want to see another awesome mix of materials where we printed these custom light bars out of PETG using PLA supports, you'll find that right here in this particular video. Or check out this one that looks like a laser review, but a big chunk of it is also about the M1D. Whether it's on an M1D like we do, or on a different device, go print 3D. Thank you for watching this gerGO Print 3D video all the way to its end. See you next time.